Everybody, this is your friend and host, Anthony Burrows for Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service. Now, I had a most interesting experience this week, and I pulled up by Commonwealth Bank actually on Thompson Boulevard / University Drive just this week, going into the ATM. But just as I got there, there was a guy in front of me, and he was parked in a spanking new Honda Accord. Really young guy, really young, and dressed typically how the young guys dress with that gangster look, I would call it. And then there was a young lady standing up by the door of where you would go in for the ATM, and she's talking with him. And then there was a customer in there. So shortly after that customer came out, she went in, up pulls a cube, heavily tinted, behind the Honda Accord. And I'm thinking, oh goodness, this is just like the typical newspaper article where you have a Honda pull up on the scene or a cube pull up and somebody start discharging firearm and all that sort of stuff. So I'm like, oh goodness. And I try because on one side is the wall, the next side is the I would have to come across, which would be crossfire if something like that was going to happen. But the person came out of the cube, and an older guy said good morning to me. We chatted a little bit while waiting for the person to come, for the young lady to come out of the ATM machine, and then I went in. But the issue is this. I'm looking today at crime and the economy. So to speak, the impacts that crime has on the economy. But when you think about it, because of the so much incidences of shootings and whatever and persons in cubes and accords and all of that, immediately as an everyday citizen, my mind went, whoops, this doesn't look good. This can become a hairy situation for me right here. And this is how, when you think of it, how crime impacts criminal activity, impacts the thought process of individuals as we move about. Now, I always think on the individual level. If I want to know somebody, I only got to look at where they spend their money, also how they spend their money, and then take note of how they spend their time and where they spend their time. Because you know what? Money and time are not infinite resources. Now, well-planned situation, you can turn money into a long-lasting process in terms of taking care of family and generations to come. But normally, we know that time and money are not infinite resources as it relates to us as human beings. Now, time goes on forever, but money doesn't go on forever because money is in limited supply. But we cannot outlast time, so therefore, for us, time is infinite. Now, as I was saying, you look at an individual and look at how he spends this money and where he spends this time. And it's the same thing. This is how you can determine whether you are in the direction of fighting and preventing and serving against crime. And therefore, automatically, you are in the building your nation and building the economy. Now, when you look at things to determine, you look at markers, I call them, be it in a family or in a nation. And the markers, first thing is prevention, detection, punishment, and rehabilitation. That's when it comes to crime. And so you can examine a family and you look at a situation with a family. What's the family spending their money on? Are their monies going towards things that prevent criminality and that spirit coming up in the children? Are they, as a family, able to detect any criminality or any of those different actions that may be manifested in us or in the children and different things in the home? And also, are they taking action in terms of punishing and preventing when you're looking at bad behavior that could lead to criminality? And then, of course, always having that rehabilitative atmosphere which every home should have. And it's the same thing. You can look at the national budget. And that's how you know where a nation is going when it comes to fighting crime and building its economy. Because the national markers, I call them now, these things that you look for along the way to say if a nation is serious. You look at education, health care, policing, the legal system, and then you look at what sort of social programs that they have. You see, education, healthcare, and social system, they serve as safety nets and preventers for criminality and crime. Policing, of course, serve as the detection. Then the legal system got like 2 or 3 folds when you look at it. First, it's for the protection of the rights of the individual, also protecting the individual sanity by ensuring that they have humane treatment, and then having an expeditious, fair, and quick trial. And then the final step is either they're going free of being exonerated, or they then go to the process where they go enter the system and go into punishment, which can be, however you want to look at it. Now, the second item is when you're looking at the national budget, you're looking at, hey, is it preventing, detecting, punishing, and rehabilitating crime and criminals? Now, our budget, let's look at our budget. Our budget was originally $3.2 billion. But of course, COVID, Dorian, and all of that led to tremendous downfall and downturn in the economy. Therefore, revenue is expected to be down at least by $900 million. So the budget is now set at $2.6 billion. At the same time, we are running a deficit of $1.3 billion, which in this instance is 50% of the budget. Oh my Lord, we in trouble. This is why I'm saying teach those children. Teach them about money. Teach them about having the spirit of excellence and always pursuing and doing their best, having a spirit of service without expectation. But here we are, 50% of the budget actually is a deficit. Now, when you look at it, the budget, when it comes to fighting crime and growing your economy, has to be looking at the same things I said again: prevention, detection, punishment, and rehabilitation. That's what the expenditures should be geared towards. And if it's well spent and managed, you can get it. Now let's look at some ministries and their budgets. The Ministry of Education, $93,110,547, and that's 4% of the budget. Now the Department of Education, which actually runs all of the schools and all of that sort of stuff, pay the teachers and on and on. Department of Education has a budget of $247,352,530. That's 10% of the budget. So between the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education, they are taking up 14% of the budget. That's a good sign, I would say. Now let's look at the police force, the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Their budget, $138,725,544. And they are at about 5.33% of the budget. And most of that is going to salary and hopefully some equipment and things of that sort. But that should be a bigger budget. But I guess you can only afford what you can afford. The Ministry of Health, a significant waymarker and parameter that's needed in terms of boosting the economy and deterring crime and criminality. The Ministry of Health, you have $301,100,388, and it's at 12% of the budget. 12% of the budget. Now the courts has a budget of $14,488,849, which is less than 1%. And the court collects average around $4 million collected in punishments and penalties each year. So they kind of offset their budget, so to speak, at least by that $4 million cutting into the budget, really, which means the budget is then $10 million. Now, Ministry of Youth, $28,251,040, less than 1%. Social Services, $43,951,011, less than 1%. Department of Corrections, $28,251,098, which is about $18,300 per inmate. Now, here we go. Here's the interesting thing. On the latest household survey we had in the Bahamas, the poverty level was any household where the income was less than $4,300 per annum per person. And here it is, in the prison, we're spending $18,000 per inmate. And then we have, I forget the percentage of the population, I think it was like around 3-4% of the population that goes into that situation, which of course the majority are of Haitian nationals because of their situation. But that is interesting. Now, salaries for government employees, and government employees includes Bahamas Air, Water and Sewage, University of Bahamas, the Gaming Board, all of those that are considered quasi, Bank of the Bahamas, all of them. But here we go. Government employee salary is $790,941,410, 30% of the budget. And when you look at that, I guess that's ideally you'd probably want to be in a situation if you're in the private sector where salaries account for maybe 10 to 15%, 25 the most. But for us, this is necessary, I guess, in our situation. We have not prepared our people as a nation to be self-employed and to pursue self-employed interests, because a lot of persons figure, hey, I am going to get a government job and I'll be set and taken care of for the rest of my life. But we know that's utter nonsense and stupidity thought process. But to each his own, and however the situation, and I am a government employee myself, so I kind of understand. Now, servicing the debt, paying off the debt, we're spending just over $600 million in this budget cycle. And that's 23% of the budget. So, oh my Lord, we're in trouble again. So he's putting 23% of the budget paying off debt. So that's a serious dilemma. But here we go. Prevention, detection, punishment, and rehabilitation for crime accounts for approximately 23% of the national budget, right? And then salaries and loan payments account for 53% of the budget. So we got this thing backwards. So salaries, loan payments, and facing crime accounts. Facing crime also in this situation accounts for 76% of the budget. And then the budget over the years, in reality, when you look at it, has kind of done its part, even though we can up it a bit, maybe a 10% here and there. So, but we the people, I should say, are the weak link. Oftentimes, we are not willing to turn in criminals and criminality when it's taking place in our little sphere. And normally it doesn't matter until it knocks at our door. I always like to think of a real life story that happened. I can recall many years ago an individual that I knew personally. He used to dabble and deal in drugs and what have you. One day he got shot and he came running home, and then he laid on the ground in his parents' home, his mother's home, and died right on the floor right there with them, trying to help him, talking to him, calling the ambulance. But here's the catch. About 2 years prior to that, there was an incident of another boy in the neighborhood got shot, not far from them. They saw who shot him, the whole 9 yards. But you know what? Well, I guess they were afraid, or they just didn't want to talk, and they didn't say anything. And it turned out, it's believed, rumor has it, that the same person who shot that individual was the one who shot their son, their brother, and so forth. So this thing can always come back to bite you. Now, when you're looking at crime, we can look at some short statistics, right? Now, crime tends to come either against the property or against the individual. Now, crimes against the property, when we went through the police annual report for 2019, I think it was, or was it 2020? 2019. We had 2,500, just over 2,500 crime against property. But the thing is, they didn't have anything to say what the dollar value was for that, which really could be a help. Murders were 95. Armed robberies were 531. So you see situation here. But like I said again, the police annual report had placed no dollar value on anything. Here's an interesting thing I noticed with the budget. The Department of Statistics, their budget, $3,790,097. A measly budget, way less than 1%. But here's the thing. Getting data and mining data as a nation, you know how it can be of assistance to business persons, teachers, preachers, every aspect of the society and the community can utilize data and help them to make informed decision and choices. And in my opinion, some of the best and brightest people should be in the Department of Statistics. That department needs to grow at least by another 100 employees, and the budget increase at least to $120 million, so that as a nation, with data and statistics right at a fingertip and the click of a button, we would be in a better position as a nation, as a people. Now, let's look at some of the impact of crime. Let's look at some of the impact. First and foremost, people like to complain about higher prices. That's the first impact. Higher prices of food goods, higher prices for entertainment, higher prices for homes. When you think of homes, all the homes nowadays, you got to have alarms, cameras, burglar bars, some of these high security locks on your doors, metal doors, right? High walls and fences, and then additional lighting around the yard. When you go out for entertainment, wherever you go, they're going to have, many places nowadays have off-duty police officers, they're armed, and of course, they have to be paid. And so that's additional cost. Then the businesses, all of them have the security systems, all of the high security surveillance and whatever. Then, of course, armored vehicles got to come pick up the monies and tote it back and forth. All of these things are now figured into the pricing. And then, of course, when it comes to like food goods and dry goods and some of the other type stores that you may go in, their prices are counting also for theft of the merchandise, which causes the cost of it to go up. Then when you think of things like insurance for your property, insurance for your vehicle, of course, also when you think of travel, the airline tickets and all of those are costing more because more security implements are applied and more security activity take place. And for those implements and for the activity, it costs money. Then one of the main primary factors that affect our economy is the fear factor. So you have persons who decide, hey, I'm not going out for dinner. I'm not going to the movies. I'm not going to the local bar. I'm not going here, there, and all over the place where they will be spending money. For instance, if they're out and about, they got to put gas in the car. And they got to want to get some food and on, things that keep the economy going and then helps to build and boost our economy. And so this psychological impact is very, very real. And it's something that we must bear in mind. Then, of course, you have higher taxes because it means now government has to put more monies into more patrol cars. Then they got to have the shot spotters. And the other day, I think when they bought them, they seem to be working because police can get the scenes quicker now and probably have an idea as to where the shot came from, but at $1 million a pop. So monies that could have been gone to classrooms and getting computer labs and science labs and getting all the equipment that could get our children equipped and ready for the future got to go towards fighting crime. Then more street lighting. And then when you think about it, with more criminals and more persons incarcerated, you're going to have a situation where there's more to feed them, more to clothe them, more to take care of them. You got to have more space for them to occupy. And then also you look at the medical costs, the disabilities, the lowered productivity. Companies now have experienced lower productivity because in some cases they have to close down earlier because the employees don't want to be in a certain area after certain hours. Then persons who are injured, persons who have been shot, they are now limping around for the rest of their life. So therefore they are become disabled. Some of them can no longer go back to work. So therefore they're now receiving disability from national insurance. They have to go to social services, all of the different things that causes money to be extracted from the system and going elsewhere. Then, of course, we always hear about the thing when different countries put out travel advisory because of criminality. And then you have a situation where the cruise ships, the hotels, and some of these other entities, they say, hey, tell the tourists now and the visitors, don't go over the hill, don't go this area, don't go that area. So where they would have ordinarily gone and spend money, they are now in a situation where they remain in the hotel, they remain on the cruise ship, and they remain wherever, and no money is being spent in the economy. These are the things and the way criminality and crime impacts the economy. Then also lower wages because businesses got to divert money for security system and crime prevention. So therefore profits are lower, therefore salaries have to be lower. Then businesses lose their competitive edge and they make less investment because of the impact of crime and having to divert money to it. Then the real significant thing is that you experience a diminished quality of life. Diminished quality of life because many people now in a situation where they have to divert so much of their resources to fighting crime and all of that in their personal life that as a result, things that they could have done with their money now impacts them and prevents them from having the standard of living, having the quality of life, then living in a state of fearfulness and on and on. You see, the idea is this. We have to fight crime and criminality and criminals. Don't let them operate with impunity because family life diminishes. And if once family life is impacted, then everyone's impacted. Remember, if the individual is impacted, it then goes to the family. From the family, it goes to the community. From the community, it goes to our island. From the island, it then spreads around the country. So, take the step now. Get the next generation prepared. It's imperative. And we have to teach them leadership. We have to teach them to handle money and to prepare for the future. You want to put them in a situation where they are knowing, doing, and being. And I can kind of wrap up here. Knowing, that's building their knowledge base. And to continue for the rest of their life to be a lifelong learner. Doing, that's the development of their character and integrity. Imagine if we had leadership around this Commonwealth, around the world. You can imagine what the situation would be like if leaders had character and integrity. And then the last thing being understanding themselves, who they are, where it is they're going, why they're here, and what it is they want to do with a sense of purpose. So that's knowing, doing, and being. So until next time, may the God of heaven and his Son, the Christ, bless and prosper you.